بينهم وأسروا النجوى قالوا إن هذان لساحران يريدان أن يخرجاكم من أرضكم بسحرهما ويذهبا بطريقتكم المثلى فأجمعوا كيدكم ثم أتوا صفا وقد أفلح اليوم من استعلى قالوا يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون أول من ألقى قال بل ألقوا فإذا حبالهم وعصيهم يخيل إليه من سحرهم أنها تسعى فأوجس في نفسه خيفة موسى قلنا لا تخف إنك أنت الأعلى وألق ما في يمينك تلقف ما صنعوا إنما صنعوا كيد ساحر ولا يفلح الساحر حيث أتى فألقي السحرة سجدا قالوا آمنا برب هارون وموسى قال آمنتم له قبل أن آذن لكم إنه لكبيركم الذي علمكم السحر فلأقطعن أيديكم وأرجلكم من خلاف ولأصلبنكم في جذوع النخل ولتعلمن أينا أشد عذابا وأبقى قالوا لن نؤثرك على ما جاءنا من البينات والذي فطرنا فاقض ما أنت قاض إنما تقضي هذه الحياة الدنيا إنا آمنا بربنا ليغفر لنا خطايانا وما أكرهتنا عليه من السحر والله خير وأبقى إنه من يأت ربه مجرما فإن له جهنم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا ومن يأته مؤمنا قد عمل الصالحات فأولئك لهم الدرجات العلى جنات عدن تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها وذلك جزاء من تزكى صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I'd like to give my congratulations to all of you on the birthday of our 11th Imam, Imam Ḥasan al-ʿAskarī. Salawat. Inshallah, we'll continue with our program. Now we're going to start with some recitation in Urdu, followed by poetry in Farsi. And then we'll have our speech by Sheikh Salim Yusufali, inshallah. So please, with that, help me invite up our first reciter, our brother Mubashir Ali Khan, with their loudest of salawats. It's a day of the birthday of our 11th Imam. Loud salawat.
Assalamu alaikum. Like brother said, we will be having qasidas in all three languages. You know, we among our friends, we usually call this Jashan as UNO Jashan. It's a multi-language. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salwa. نہ خسروی کے لیے ہے نہ افسری کے لیے، نہ خسروی کے لیے ہے نہ افسری کے لیے، نہ خسروی کے لیے ہے بر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔ زبان وقف ہے بس مد ہے عسکری کے لیے، زبان وقف ہے بس مد ہے عسکری کے لیے۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ زبان وقف ہے بس مد ہے عسکری کے لیے، اگر نہ ملتی انہیں نور عسکری کی زکوٰۃ، ترستے چاند ستارے بھی روشنی کے لیے، ترستے چاند ستارے بھی روشنی کے لیے، گرایا آپ کا روضہ جنہوں نے اے مولا شکار پہلا بنائیں گے وہ آخری کے لیے، شکار پہلا بنائیں گے وہ آخری کے لیے۔ امام پھر سے بلائے مجھے بھی سامرا، ترس رہی ہے جبھی کب سے بندگی کے لیے، ترس رہی ہے جبھی کب سے بندگی کے لیے۔ میرے امام کا ہمسر وہ کیسے لاتے بھلا، ملا نہ جب کوئی خمبر کی ہمسری کے لیے، ملا نہ جب کوئی خمبر کی ہمسری کے لیے، یہ بولے دار پہ میسم میں کیسے رک جاؤں، زباں ملی ہے مجھے جب علی علی کے لیے، زباں ملی ہے مجھے جب علی علی کے لیے، खुसरवी के लिए है नवसरी के लिए जुबान वक्फ है बस मद है अस्करी के लिए बर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
Ḥasan, thank you. Can we get another loud salawat for Brother Mubashir? Salawat, Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For my uncle Mubashir. Inshallah, our next reciter is in Farsi. Please help me invite up Brother Falati with your loudest of salawats.
Salam alaikum. Actually, I was feeding. The other guys didn't show up, and that's why they had to bring me from the kitchen. So I'm wearing black. Anyway, it's an honor. So inshallah, we'll start with the dua of our Imam Zaman, and then we'll just read some poem regarding the Mawlud of Imam Ḥasan al-ʿAskarī. Salam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن. If the kids are talking, that's acceptable. But I think the sisters should be actually respecting the program, inshallah, for the entire program. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا. It is everyone's responsibility to do the dua for Agha Imam al-Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. And if you're sitting in this majlis, you have to have the greatest respect for what you are here for tonight. Otherwise, the door would be closed if it wasn't because of the Mawludi. وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات عليكم. لشکر شادی گرفت ملک جهان را. I always tell my Urdu brothers and sisters that if you pay attention, you will probably understand most part of it, just like Brother Mubashir sometimes, besides Farsi also. لشکر شادی گرفت ملک جهان را کرد مسخر همه کون و مکان را برد به یک حمله دل پیر و جوان را داد به جسم وجود روح و روان را خیز و به پایش فدا کن. با چه زبونی به تو خواهر بعد بگن ساکت باش؟ تو مجلس آقا امام حسن عسکری نشستی، اصلا انگار نه انگار، با یه خورده ریسپکت. داد به جسم وجود روح و روان را، خیز و به پایش فدا کن سر و جان را. داری اگر کن نثار خوب تر از جان، وجد و سرور و شعف گشت عبادت مهر فلک داده. با خنده شهادت آمده بر شیعیان، دور سیادت دور سیادت مگو، صبح سعادت صبح سعادت مگو، روز ولادت ولادت حجت قادر منان. 11 اختر برج ولایت ماه محمد. صلوات خیر کنید. ماه محمد جمال شمس هدایت، ابر کرم فلک جود بحر عنایت. قصه فضل ورانیست نهایت، کار نمی آید از شعر و حکایت. لال در این جا بود منطق انسان، عروس زهرا حدیث قرص قمرزاد. 8 ماه ربیع پاک پسر زاد، بهر امام 10 نور بصر زاد. از شجر احمدی طرف ثمر زاد، بلکه برای همه خلق پدر زاد. خلق به خاک درش در خط فرمان، او که به صلبش بود مصلح عالم، او که به خاکش بود چهره آدم. Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. That's what I always ask him, please don't ask me to come up here. I don't tolerate, I will not tolerate until I die, because that's not right. If you're sitting in the main hall, this is a multicultural community. You have to respect each other, even if you don't understand it. Decided last Salawat. او که ثنایش کنن آدم و خاتم، او که مدیحش بود ذکر دمادم. جنت بی جلوه اش خانه ماتم، دوزخ در سایه اش روضه رضوان. اهل ورا سرخوش از ساغر اوین. A few more lines, that's it. اهل ولا سرخوش از ساغر اوین. خلق خدا جمله در محضر اوین. جن و ملک سر به سر اسگر اوین. پیر و جوان چون گدا در بر در اوین. خیل نبین ثنا گسر اوین. بلکه خدا وصف او گفته به قرآن. ای حضرت معشوق ای لیلا ترینم، من از همه پروانه ها شیدا ترینم. انشاءالله we ask on this such a special night that even Imam Ḥasan al-ʿAskarī will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah will expedite the zuhura, his son, Agha Mahdi Ajjalallahu ta'ala Farajul Sharif, inside the last salawat.
Ḥasan, Jazakallah, Agha Falati. Another loud salawat for Agha Falati. Allahumma salli Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, next we're gonna invite up, please help me invite up our speaker for tonight, Sheikh Salim Yusufali, with your loudest of salawats.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. On the occasion of the Wilada anniversary of our 11th Imam, Imam Ḥasan al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam, I want to congratulate the living Imam, the Imam of our time, and all the believers for this special occasion. May Allah reward you all for participating in this gathering. Inshallah, your presence here, your sacrifice in attending, and your good intentions, these are things which, inshallah, are a source of pleasure to the living Imam, the Imam of the time, when he sees that there are mu'mineen who are willing to come together and sacrifice and take that effort to be able to join together and sing the praise of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam together, and inshallah become closer to Allah by means of them. On this evening, I wanted to, inshallah, say a few words regarding some of the points that we could take from the life of the Imam, but inshallah to gather the attention of all who are in attendance, and to inshallah attract the special mercy of Allah to this gathering. I want to ask you all to recite a beautiful united salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So regarding the birth of Imam ʿAskarī alayhi salam, which took place on this day many years ago, we're told that his father Imam Ali al-Hadi alayhi salam had predicted the home where his son would be born in advance. It was in the city of Medina. And at that point, he told his companion who was, arranging his affairs, he says that يُولَدُ لِي غُلَامٌ أُسَمِّيهِ حَسَنًا. A son will be born to me, and I will name him Ḥasan. وَأَرَى مِنْهُ مَا أُحِبُّ. In a very short sentence, the Imam Hadi, the 10th Imam, he describes, what is it that summarizes Imam ʿAskarī alayhi salam? What is the epitome of, the greatness of Imam ʿAskarī alayhi salam? He says that in Imam ʿAskarī alayhi salam, I will see what I love. Imagine that a human being can be described by another Imam in that one sentence. That's something that everyone, inshallah, would want to aspire for, that in them I see what I love. And that was the prediction of Imam Hadi alayhi salam, and of course, this is exactly what happened with Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam. Imam al-ʔaskarī was born in Medina, where he spent 13 years, and then 10 years he lived in Samarra, and then for the remaining 6 years of his life, when he was the Imam, he was also in Samarra, half of which he was in prison. Just to describe, give you an idea of the excellence of this Imam, just want to share one incident that we have recorded in the books of history. Once again, could I ask you all to recite the salawat, please? So, I've been the suggestion to stop until everyone's quiet. That I don't want to do that, but I think that maybe there are some who do want to listen to the speech, and maybe we want to respect their right to do so. And those who want to talk, I'm sure there's, alhamdulillah, it's a big center. There's other rooms, many other rooms where conversations. We don't want to prevent people from socializing. We believe in the power of socializing, but there's a time and place for everything. So inshallah, we can choose the right time to talk and the right place to talk as well. One more salawat, please. Okay, thank you very much. Ahsantum. So, there's a very beautiful story I came across regarding Imam al-ʔaskarī alayhi salam. I just wanted to share with you on this night as inshallah tabarruk for us. So, one of the tax collectors at that time, his name was Ahmad ibn Ubaydullah ibn Khaqan. Ahmad was a dire enemy of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And he was very tight with the Umayyad government, with the Abbasid government. He was a tax collector. And he was one of the elite members of the Abbasid government. But one of the things that's interesting is how he describes his experience in how he came to know about the fadila, the excellence of Imam al-ʔaskarī alayhi salam. So he says that when I was a child, my father was one of the dignitaries of the Abbasid government. And one day I was with him, and there was one day in the week where he would receive guests from the outside. And the servants came and they said that Abu Muhammad has come to see you. And so this Ahmad, he says, I was just a boy at that time, but I was very surprised because usually they would, when the servants would announce the arrival of a guest, they wouldn't use his kunya. In the Arabic language, when you use a kunya like Abu something, it's considered a term of respect. So he says that the only people who I ever heard them refer to with the kunya was like the high dignitaries. Like if a Khalifa were to come, or if a prince were to come, that's when they would use one of the kunyas of that person. So I realized that somebody very special is coming in. And when my father heard the name of Abu Muhammad, he said, let him in, let him in. So I was surprised. And he says, I saw my father stand up. And once again, I'd never seen my father stand up except for like a Khalifa was going to come in, or the son of a Khalifa. And I was so surprised when I saw a young man enter into the palace of my father. And I saw how my father got up, how he went to him, how he kissed him, how he showed him so much respect. And later on, I went to my father and I said, oh my father, I never seen you treat somebody except for one of the Abbasid Khalifas with this much respect. Tell me, who is this person? And my father told me, don't you know this is the one who is known as Ibn al-Rida. He's the son of Rida. You know that both Imam Muhammad Taqi alayhi salam and Ali al-Hadi al-Naqi, they were referred to with the title of Ibn al-Rida, the son of Rida, because Imam Rida alayhi salam was so, the love of him had set into the hearts of the people so much that Ibn al-Rida was the title given to his descendants. So his father, Ahmad's father, tells him this was Ibn al-Rida. He is the Imam of the Rafidis. At that time, they used to refer to the Shias as the Rafidis. It was kind of a derogatory comment. But he's the leader of them. He is the best of the Banu Hashim. And he is the, even though he is the Imam of the Rawafid, the Rafidis, still there is no one who is more excellent than him in virtues. So Ahmad says that, I was actually angry at my father because after all, he was the byproduct of Abbasid type of thinking. And, he was thinking that, how can somebody who's not from the Abbasid be so great? What is this? So he said, I started to do my own investigation. And I asked different people, and I found that every single person I talked to, whether they were a friend of Imam al-ʿAskarī's or they were his enemy, all of them said that there is no one who is more excellent in their virtues like Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam. So they say that when you have somebody who, from the enemy, who admits something about somebody that's a virtue, then it's a sign that indeed it is a virtue. Right? Meaning that your enemy is not going to lie when he's praising his enemy. This is just one indication of the type of personality that Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam had despite his young age. Now I want to take 2 or 3 incidents from his life, inshallah, and see if we can, by remembering the stories, we can take some practical lessons for us, and inshallah, understand some of our responsibilities on this evening. So one of them is an incident, I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's one of the miracles of Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam. This story is told in a few different ways depending on which riwayah you refer to. But one of the riwayat says this, that it was at the time that the Imam was actually in prison, where there was a drought in Samarra, in the city where he was in prison. Now, during that time, it had been a whole year that rain hadn't fallen and things were getting desperate. And the Muslims were going to the desert and they were doing Salatul Istisqa, and there was no rain that was falling. And suddenly there was a group of people of other faith who had gone, and suddenly, for a few days when they would go and they would pray, rain would start to fall. And there were some whose faith was a bit, weaker. It wasn't really sort of settled. And they started to think that, well, what's going on here? Why is it that their du'as are being answered? Our du'as aren't being answered. What's going on here? And they were confused. The Khalifa of the time was confused. According to one of the reports, one of the Shia of Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam, he says that this is something that I need to take to the Imam, and somehow he finds a way to visit the Imam when he's in prison. And when he goes there, he sees the condition of the Imam, and he's very saddened because he sees that right in the prison cell where he's in prison, he sees that there's a grave that's dug there as well, like a grave that's waiting for the Imam. This is just to give you an idea of some of the dhulm that was done to Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam. He's indeed one of the Imams who is madhulum. Anyhow, Imam al-ʿAskarī alayhi salam sees that he's worried. He says, don't worry, I will be coming out of the prison. This is not going to lead to my departure from this world. But what have you come for? What is it that I can help you with? So he says that I have 2 questions, and both of these questions it's very interesting. The first one, he says that there's a hadith that I have heard reported from your grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Please recite salawat. And according to this hadith, it says that Rasulullah said that do not take the days as your enemies. And I don't understand what that hadith means. Can you tell me what is the deeper meaning of this hadith? Now, brothers and sisters, it's very interesting. The Imam alayhi salam, he knows that what this companion is looking for is something deeper. There's different layers to the ayat of the Quran. There's different layers to some of the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. There is one understanding of not taking the days as enemies, which has to do with the idea of not cursing out days. How there's some people who say that, oh, this day was filled with bad luck, right? It was just a day of misfortune and bad luck. This is just, let me blame all my problems on the day itself, right? That type of thinking is not a positive way of thinking. It has a lot of shirk associated with it. We should realize that every day is a creation of Allah, and He is the one who is in charge, and He has given us the means to be able to accomplish our objectives. And if something some misfortune befalls us, then it's not something that we need to curse out the day, but rather we need to deal with it. We deal with it in the proper way. But the Imam ﷺ knows that his companion is not looking for a simple answer, and he's looking for something deeper. So he says that what the deeper meaning of that hadith is that every day of the week is associated with one of us, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And so he says that Saturday is the day of Rasulullah. And Sunday is the day of Amirul Mu'min and Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. And Monday is the day of Imam al-Hasanain, Imam Ḥasan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And Tuesday is the day of the 4th, 5th, and 6th Imams. Wednesday is the day of the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th Imams. Thursday is the day of, Imam al-Ḥaskari says it's my day. And then Friday is the day of the promised guided one, Imam al-Mahdi, who will be born from me. And he says each one of these days is associated with, so he says, do not take the Ahlul Bayt as your enemies, because that's something which is going to be a source of your misfortune on the day of judgment. Now this is something that on a practical level, it's something that's it's good for us to take note of, that there are a number of hadith which talk about this concept of having each day associated with a member of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. On a practical level, like what does that mean for us? Well, brothers and sisters, those of us who would like to have a strong identity of being a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, there are certain things that we need to practice in order to keep that identity. It's not enough just to just to say it. We have to actually take some effort and take advantage of this connection that we have, this beautiful gift that we have of these guides who have been placed for us. And one of the ways is by, on a daily basis, connecting to them. And what better way to connect to them than to realize that, okay, each day has been given to us as a special time to connect to each one of them. As you know, there are special ziyarat, like very short, very capable of being read for each day of the week, and each day it's an opportunity to connect to them. So for example, on the day of Saturday, we say our salams to Rasulullah, and then we say that, okay, this is the day of Saturday, it's your day. I'm your guest on this day. You're the master. I'm your guest, so take me, let me be your refugee. Let me escape to you. You be my solace on this day. You be the means by which Allah will take care of my needs on this day. Now you go through the day of Saturday, imagine that you have that special care and attention of Rasulullah. What a beautiful experience. And then comes Sunday, in the morning, after your Fajr prayer, now you're addressing Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. You're saying that, okay, this is Sunday, now this is your day. You take care of me on this day. I have these needs, I'm presenting them to you. You're the masters on this day, help me out, and so on and so forth. And if we do this week after week, we teach our children this concept as well. Maybe we can shorten it for them if we need to. Then we grow up realizing, okay, that this is part of our identity. This is part of our customs and our practice on a daily basis. Then he asks the Imam, he says that, well, we have this situation where, some of the Muslims, their faith is being shaken. Tell us what we can do at this point. He says, okay, no problem. It has an answer to this. The leader of that group has located an ancient bone of one of the prophets of God. And by means of somehow using this bone as a means of getting his dua answered, that's why the rain is falling. Just go and take that bone away and see what happens. So this companion goes and they're out there, again, they're praying, people are watching, they're like, oh my God, it's raining. And he goes and he removes the bone, and clouds part and the sun comes out, and they realize that, okay, it was because of this that this was happening. It's not a sign of, this, for example, the religion of Islam or anything being faulty. This was the way by which they were doing it. So this was an incident, and it was one of the means by which people, understood the position of the imamah of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam at that time. So that's one of the stories I wanted to share with you on this evening. One of the other stories that we have from the Imam is from one of his companions named Muhammad ibn Hamza as-Sarwari. Muhammad ibn Hamza says that there was a time where financially I was really in a lot of difficult times, and I was really struggling. And I went through one of my friends who was a close companion of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam to get some help from him, get some advice. What am I supposed to do? I'm trying everything. I have loans I have to pay. I'm just really struggling. The Imam alayhi salam sends him a letter. And in this letter, he informs him of something. He says that you have a cousin and your cousin is going to pass away very soon. And when he passes away, he's going to leave behind a sizable amount of wealth. And that is going to be your inheritance because you're the one who's the closest relative, so it's going to go to you. So then he tells him, he says that when that amount comes to you, then he tells him 3 instructions. He says, number 1, fashkurillah, be thankful to Allah. Second of all, wa alayka bil iqtisad, that when you get this amount, then be balanced in your and moderate in your expenditure. Number 3, wa iyyaka wal israf, and stay far, far away from doing israf, from being somebody who is wasteful with your wealth. فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ فِعْلِ الشَّيْطَانَ, because when somebody is wasteful in their expenditure, that is one of the actions of the devils. So this individual, Muhammad ibn Hamza, he says that exactly on that day that the Imam alayhi salam, wrote that letter, that was the day in which my cousin actually left this world. And the news traveled to me, and it was exactly the amount received me that the Imam had predicted. And it was a sizable amount. It was a good amount of dirhams. He says, because the Imam alayhi salam given me these instructions, I found that, first of all, my needs were taken care of. But once he gave me these instructions, I realized that he was trying to send me a message. He was trying to correct me. He was trying to guide me. I had gone to him seeking help from my financial problems, but the Imam alayhi salam was trying to help me in my spiritual problems as well. He says that from that point onwards, I started to be much more careful about how I spent my money. And I realized that before that, I was one of the mubadhireen. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says that إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ مِنْ إِخْوَانِ الشَّيَاطِينَ, that those who are wasteful, those who are extravagant in their expenditure, they are among the brethren of the shaitan. They're the devils. They're the brothers of the devils. I realized I was one of those people. But the Imam alayhi salam had guided me in this case. And if we look at this, it's something which is very beautiful, very practical as well. Sometimes we hear of stories of individuals who, they're very concerned, for example, with certain aspects of their ritual ibadah, like their prayers, like, for example, going for ziyarah, for hajj, and fasting and whatnot. But then this point of the ibadah, where we're told in hadith that ibadah is divided into 10 parts, 9 parts of which are seeking a rizq which is halal, that part for some reason, they're not too concerned about. It's not something which really they take as seriously. And sometimes we hear of, like, for example, expenditures or investments which are very, questionable, or sometimes they're downright haram. Just because the ends are very profitable doesn't justify the means. We know that, right? Just because we have doesn't give us the right to spend however we please. This is just one of many, many, many guidelines from the Ahlul Bayt where they emphasize this concept of iqtisad. Iqtisad means to be balanced, to be moderate, to live a moderate lifestyle. One of the most beautiful things is seeing the Muslim community in a position of financial power such that their expenditure on personal expenditure is moderate, but their ability to expend on needed costs is something which is very powerful. And so when, for example, there are beneficial projects that uplift the community, that talk to the future, that provide for the future generations, that help to rid this world of oppression, that gives people faith and education, then we see them rush towards them and support them fully. That's when we're happy. That's when we see that, alhamdulillah, this is something which is beneficial. And definitely this is the type of thing that the Ahlul Bayt would be pleased with. Not that, they would advocate somebody not being financially strong. No, that's something which, of course, naturally doesn't make sense, but rather being strong, but being moderate, living a moderate, balanced lifestyle. The other story I wanted to share with you on this evening, and inshallah I'm drawing to a close with my comments here, is again a practical lesson we can take from the life of the Imam. You know, Imam Askari alayhi salam, one of the beautiful things that we learned from him is some of the expectations of the Ahlul Bayt during the time of the ghaibah. Why? Because the Imam alayhi salam, even though he is not in ghaibah, virtually he was in ghaibah. Why? Because he was living in such a time where it was so difficult for the Shias that it was as if their Imam was in ghaibah. So when we see the instructions that he gave, the example that he set, you know, his expectations were from his followers, these are things which are very, very relevant for us. So one of the stories that really caught my attention, and I thought I would share with you on this evening, again, a practical lesson. One of the companions, Abu Hisham or Abu Hashim, Abu Hashim says, I had gone to visit Imam Askari alayhi salam, and I saw that he was busy writing a letter. Now, brothers and sisters, if we just imagine this, you know, here we have the Imam alayhi salam. What more important person do you know on the earth than the Imam? Of course, he's the most important person on the earth. He's Hujjatullah on the earth. Secondly, what more important work can you imagine other than the Imam alayhi salam writing a letter? Imagine that's more precious than gold and silver and diamonds and everything else, because here's knowledge that the Imam is bequeathing. He's writing a letter. In that letter, he's going to guide people. He's going to solve people's problems. But Abu Hashim says that while he was in the midst of writing the letter, the time for prayers came. Immediately, the Imam alayhi salam put down his pen. Immediately, he goes to do his prayers. And when he finishes his prayers, then he comes back and he picks up the pen and then he starts writing again. Now, if we ask ourselves, brothers and sisters, on a practical level, we say that, okay, here's the Imam and here's me, right? He's much more important, much more grand, but he realizes that, you know, that when it comes time for the call, everything, I'm an abd, right? I obey the command of Allah. And then if we think about sometimes the excuses that we make, you know, we say that, oh, I'm busy, this is more important, I have to finish this. Well, what's more important that we could do than what the Imam is doing? Right? No matter what, there's no way we could even imagine that any act, even if we're doing an act of goodness, right? Like sometimes we think that, okay, no, I'm involved with, let's say, some community work, I'm doing this thing, so I need to like finish this and then I'll go and say my prayers. Well, could it be more important than the work of the Imam alayhi salam? He could drop his work and he could go pray, so I can do that as well. So this is definitely one of the, if we want to say, okay, how do we take the Ahlul Bayt as role models? This is one of the examples we have, a very small but very practical example. Now, of course, there are some cases where, you know, it's necessary for us to attend to, let's say, a small baby, or there's something urgent. Of course, you know, Islam gives us the allowance of delaying the prayer. But sometimes, you know, we have to have our perspectives in place here. And we have to take the Ahlul Bayt as role models. This is what they wanted from their followers. Imtahinu shi'atana inda thalath. This is a hadith from the Ahlul Bayt. Test our Shias in 3 times. What's the first time? Inda salah. When the time of salah comes, see what they're doing and see whether they're Shias or not. Our Shias, you know, the ones who are really our Shias, they know what they need to do at that time. The last thing I'll mention, brothers and sisters, inshallah, as kind of a husn al-khitam is, you know, as sometimes, you know, times seem maybe that it's a bit gloomy when we look at the world events, you know, when we look at some of the struggles that we're going through with our families, with our communities. And this is where it's very important that we always realign our vision with the vision of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. The vision of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam is not that the status quo is the ideal state. We should never, ever fall into that trap and think that, oh, we just need to, you know, everything's fine. We just need to, like, let's say, for example, have a Muslim president of the United States and then everything is good, right? That's not the vision of the Ahlul Bayt. The vision of the Ahlul Bayt is very grand. It's something which addresses the core problems of the world today. It's something which is very beautiful and very hope-giving. And that vision is a vision that Imam Askari would talk to his followers about. He would inspire them with it, and he would tell them that this is what you need to be struggling for. And in the meantime, you should know that you're going to face difficulties and challenges. It's an uphill struggle. What I'm talking about here is intidhar al-faraj. What I'm talking about here is the struggle that we all have to go through waiting for the arrival of that, of the help in the form of the coming of the Imam. So in one of the very beautiful legacies of Imam al-ʿAskarī we have, it's a letter that he wrote to Ibn Babawayh al-Qummi, where he says that, عَلَيْكَ بِالصَّبْرِ وَإِنْتِظَارُ الْفَرَجِ. I'm commanding you to have patience and actively await the faraj of the Imam. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, قَالَ أَفْضَلُ الْأَعْمَالِ إِنْتِظَارُ الْفَرَجِ. The best thing you can do is be in the state of awaiting that faraj. This hadith, by the way, brothers and sisters, on a practical level, especially right now in our community, it's something which is so needed. The power of faith in being able to deal with the challenges that we're going through. Everywhere we look, I mean, this pandemic has taken its toll, right? And we're seeing like sometimes very like difficult situations arise from it, inside of our families, outside of our families. You know, with the youth, it's like challenging, social, emotional problems, mental problems, right? It's a reality. And sometimes we're like, where's the relief from this, right? Where's the hope? You know, we're just being, it's like we're being hit. Well, intidhar al-faraj min afdal al-a'mal. One of the best deeds that you can have is to have hope and know that you're not in charge of your own affairs. Allah is the one who's in charge of your affairs. He has your back. He has your best interests in mind. Alayka bis-sabr. Then he says that, he predicts, he says, وَلَا تَزَالُ شِيعَتُنَا فِي حُزْنٍ. Our Shias will be in the state of grief. If they truly are Shias, they're not going to be happy with the status quo. They'll be unhappy with it. They'll know that there's something fundamentally wrong with the structures that have been built. They're looking for something better. Until what? حَتَّى يَظْهَرُ وَلَدِي. Until my son will do his appearance. الَّذِي بَشَرَ بِهِ النَّبِي. The one that the Prophet had given the good tidings of. أَنَّهُ يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا كَمَا مُلِئَتْ ظُلْمًا وَجَوْرًا. That he is the one who's going to fill the earth with justice, the same way that it was filled with injustice. And then he says once again, فَاصْبِرْ يَا شَيْخِي وَمُعْتَمَدِي. He says, be patient, my dear Shaykh, the one who is my trusted one. وَأَمُرْ جَمِيعَ الشِّيعَةِ بِالصَّبْرِ. And command all my Shias to have that sabr. وَأَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يُورِثُهَا مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَالْعَاقِبَةُ الْمُتَّقِينَ. And how do you have that sabr? You should know that one day will come when this earth will be inherited by the righteous ones. And that destination and that good outcome is going to be given to the muttaqeen, those who have taqwa. Inshallah, we can live up to the expectations of our Imam alayhim as-salam. Inshallah, we can take their words of advice seriously. Inshallah, we can act upon, know what they wanted from us, and we can act upon them, on their instructions. And we hope that inshallah on this evening of Friday, which is also a blessed evening, that we ask Allah Ta'ala to accept our du'as, the first and foremost and the most important being ta'ajil and the hastening of the reappearance of the Imam of our time, Ajjallahu Farajahu Sharif, bi barakati salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, sure. So, Sister has a very good question. She says that what is the salat of the A'imma? If you go in the books of du'as, like Mafatih al-Jinan, there's a section which has a salah for each one of the members of the Ahlul Bayt. Like the salah of Hazrat Fatima, the salah of Imam Ali, the salah of, Imam, the Rasulullah and others. So in hadith, we're told that each one of the members of the Ahlul Bayt, when they had a special need, they would do a special salah, and that was their salah. And they would teach it to their followers as well. They say that if you have that need, then you can do that. So for example, our great scholars say that if you're in particular dire straits or something really that you really need help with, then one of those a'mal that is mujarrab, it's been tested and tried and it's been shown to have results is the salah of Fatima alayhi salam. And then at the end, you seek the tawassul of Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. You say that, Ya Fatima tu aghithini, O Fatima, you come to my rescue and help me from this situation. And then in terms of the hirs, we also have some of the special du'as which have been given by the Imams for protection. So most famous one, of course, being hirs of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Yeah. Ḥasan, thank you. Salawat, please.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله، الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله، الصلاة والسلام على المصطفى الأمجد، الصلاة والسلام على حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد ورحمة الله وبركاته، الصلاة والسلام على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على البضعة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على الحسن المجتبى الولي الناصح الأمين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا، لا سيما سيدي ومولاي بالفضل العباس وأختي زينب. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك وعلى التسعة المعصومين من بنيك، لا سيما مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله فرجه الشريف، وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه في جملة أوليائه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على محمد وآل محمد الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد